Alrighty, how's it going, everyone? Been a while. I'm gonna get the Instagram feed here started, but we're gonna start a little bit differently. We typically we've been kind of jumping right into it, but this time I'm going to start with some questions that have been asked on the UXL pre-registration sheets. I'm gonna answer some questions that I've gotten on my Facebook page and messages that have been sent to me on Instagram too. You can always find me on those places at FCMG_stay. That's Instagram, Facebook. Also on Facebook is Full Coverage Media Group, and as always, you can find us at UXL. They've been kind enough to sponsor these streams, and it's always great to be working with them. They bring a lot of people in with us and make it happen. So I'm gonna get this Instagram feed started, and we're gonna get chatting here. We'll start the day. Actually, speaking of, I should grab my water here. There we go. Got to start the day right. Everyone's got to stay hydrated, right? Here we go. Alrighty, we see some people are filtering in. I'm going to get the Instagram feed here up. Alrighty, how's it going, Instagram? This is another Producer's Log AMA work stream. Happy to have you with us. We're streaming from uxl.trainings profile on Instagram and going to UXL's YouTube and Facebook pages simultaneously on the stream up here. This is a different camera, so if you're watching on Instagram, definitely go check it out on Facebook, YouTube, or Full Coverage Media Group on Facebook, and then you can chat in directly, and we can get your comments into those streams. How's it going? Good to see the waves. Alrighty, let's get these questions up. I've had some I got some questions from students, and I want to go through a couple of them. I haven't actually read through yet, but let's see. There's the last question that we did. Okay, wow, that's a perfect question. I actually just brought over exactly what we had right here. Okay, so this question comes in from Mukesh Sharma. The question is, I skipped ahead a little bit. This is from Deepan B. Do you recommend cleaning the image sensor and the internal components from time to time? Can you recommend a good cleaning kit? I would recommend that, especially if you're going onto a set. Say you're going and taking photos on the beach, and there's a lot of wind that day, and you bring a couple lenses because you wanted to test some things out. But you had to kind of switch lenses while you're taking photos. Having if there's any kind of wind, if you're outside, basically there is some sort of wind at least, you're gonna get some sort of stuff into the internal body of your camera, and that can cause some real damage. So you want to first of all carry around a couple of pieces with you. Let's see if this kit has it in here. No, this is all right. So what I'm thinking of is a rocket blower. I know I have one in my kit. I could go grab my bag out of my closet. We just got moved into a new studio here, so I'm still getting used to where everything is and how to grab it and when. Yeah, this thing is basically a little squeeze pump. It's the same sort of pump, like, you know, if you take your blood pressure, they would use it to pump up that little thing. It just blows air onto your lens, your sensor, whatever you're trying to clean, which is great because if you're actually blowing like blowing onto your sensor with your mouth, there's going to be moisture in there, so that sensor can get moisture on it, and that's not good for it. Also, inside of your lenses, even if you're blowing on those, that moisture can accumulate, and that can turn into mold. There's all kinds of things in your breath and in your lungs that are going to be, you know, expelled onto that lens. So, and you know, I always make the mistake of doing that, and then I see like a little fleck of like spit on there, and I'm like, ah, damn it, gotta wipe the dang thing again. And that's the other thing, is you want to do this before you wipe your lens, basically every time. So it's always good to have one of these little rocket blowers with you. That helps you just get any debris off the lens or the sensor. Always do your sensor upside down. I'll give you an example here. So if you're taking the lens off of your camera, this is my little Sony a6500, and take the lens off, take it down like that so that your sensor is not facing up. you have that open sensor, but you're not exposing it to anything that might fall into it. And also there's going to be less chance of like if you do blow that sensor out, less chance of things settling back onto the lens, onto the sensor itself. That's a great question though. The one that I would actually suggest is this one. I got this little kit a while back. It's an Altura photo cleaning kit. You can clean your sensors with this thing. It does come with little swabs. This is the APS-C sized kit. They do have ones for full frame as well, but it comes with lens cleaning cloths. This is tissue paper. It also comes with an all-natural, 100% safe camera lens and sensor cleaner. I would stay away from spraying anything directly onto your sensor or lens. This stuff is rated for your cameras and your lenses, but at the same time, I would always avoid spraying it directly onto there. I would either put it onto the tissue paper, spray that a little bit, and then wipe your lens off. And then the other thing that you can do here is use these swabs. These are little sensor cleaning swabs. So these things, you basically pull them out of the pack and you'll have a little triangle with a flat edge that you can rub just directly along your sensor. And you want to be very, very, very gentle when you do this. Your sensor is very sensitive, especially in a camera like that, the A6500, because that's got an internal motor as well. So that internal stabilizer is just holding that sensor in place. And if you press too hard on that, you can mess up those internal stabilizing systems. Also, if you get liquid or anything in there, it can mess with the internals once you turn that camera back on. You want to make sure that your camera is completely dry before you ever turn it on. Having any sort of water or moisture on the inside can really make a bad difference. So yeah, the Altura photo cleaning kit. I believe I have this on my gear list. If not, I'll update that today. And I'll make sure that that's at the top of the list. Thank you for Molten Llama liking the stream. Molten Llama is actually our first subscriber. On Twitch, we recently made affiliate, and that was a big step forward for us. So I appreciate everyone helping us out and going over to Twitch. Because we made affiliate, we can no longer actually stream multi-stream. So I'm actually doing game streams where you can always ask me anything. So catch me basically any night of the week on twitch.tv/FCMG_stay. Basically, go to Twitch, search for FCMG_stay, you'll find me. James Bass, glad to have you with us. Glad you got the early notification. We're just going through some Q&A, and actually, now that we have some people here, I might as well thank the people who actually allow this stream to happen. UXL has been kind enough to sponsor these streams, and it's always great to be able to talk to more of you and get your input as well. So this video is sponsored by UXL Career and Learning Network. Are you interested in learning a new skill? UXL is a leading provider in online training. They host courses from top-rated instructors from across the globe. Find courses on just about any subject and join a community of over 500,000 passionate learners. Visit UXL.com and register today. I actually took some courses with UXL. I took their digital photography courses, their Adobe Photoshop course, and I signed up for a Dreamweaver course, and then I never actually ended up needing to use it. I started using Adobe Muse and some other platforms, and I just got away from programming because that's way too much. But Ashley, my awesome girlfriend and basically colleague, like we just do a bunch of work together, and it's awesome. She does all kinds of web design and stuff like that. So for people like us, UXL is a great resource to go and get some training done. A lot of you know that. A lot of you are alumni and you have profiles there, and you know, you get to renew those certifications over time, and a lot of them are backed by universities. So like the one that I took was backed by, I think it was a university in Canada, and I was going to school in Canada at the time, and I needed to pick up some additional like skills courses, get some certifications for resumes, and this was a great way to do it. A lot of people took me a lot more seriously after I got my Adobe ACE certification and my my digital photography certification from UXL. So it's a great way to help out your career. Definitely go check them out, uxl.com. Thank you for sponsoring this. All right, I'm going to grab a sip of water, and we're going to keep trucking with our questions here. We just got through our first question, which was about how to clean your sensors, how often to do it. I would only do it as often as necessary, really. If you are doing a shoot or something and it's windy, dusty, there's crap kind of flying through the air. If it's a sandy day, if anything like that, definitely clean your sensors afterwards. It's always worth going through a good clean on your lenses and stuff like that when you have a big, like a big shoot coming up or something needs to be perfect. Just always test your stuff afterwards to make sure that nothing is kind of messed up. You just want to, be sure you got everything going good. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the Restream chat here, make sure I don't forget anyone. There we go. Okay, all right. We got a couple of people chatting in. Liz is here. It's good to see you. Thanks for chatting in again. We've always had some good questions from Liz. Let's see here. There's a bunch more questions on the UXL pre-registration page, and I'm really loving that UXL set this up. This is a way for you to not only pre-register for these live streams, but also ask your questions beforehand, and then I can get to them. And they'll always be recorded, so you can always find these on Full Coverage Media Group on Facebook. You can also find them on UXL's Facebook and YouTube pages. The first hour is also going to be up on Instagram in their story at uxl.training. But if you're watching on Instagram, if you pop over to those other channels, that's where we're going to see your questions. So definitely go over to those other ones and ask us some questions. All right, so let's move on with these questions. Let's see. The next question is Mukesh Sharma asks, what is the best color space to set my camera to? I have options for Adobe RGB and sRGB. Should this match the same setting in my post-editing software? There's a couple of answers that I've heard to that. From what I'm used to is if you're using a monitor in sRGB, then shoot in sRGB. If you're using a monitor in Adobe RGB, which is not that common, then you would want to use Adobe RGB when you're shooting. But at the same time, if you're sort of saving for web and things like that, sRGB is going to be a little bit more friendly. It's going to represent the same way, whereas Adobe RGB is more geared towards print. It's more accurate for print color, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I've heard. If you've heard differently, I would love to hear from you. Pop into the chats and let us know, because we're always willing to hear your chats. I think I'm getting chats in Restream over here. I'm just not sure if it's actually plugging into our chat here. So we'll figure that out for next time if that's the case. But definitely chat in. I'm still getting your questions, and we're still going to be answering them here. So yeah, from my experience, it's always use sRGB if possible. If you're saving for web, if you're going digital, but if you're printing, go with Adobe RGB. Make sure your screen is also in Adobe RGB. That's actually something that like you gotta set. Some screens actually are rated to cover Adobe RGB. Like I have a new ViewSonic monitor coming soon. It's a 14-bit 3D LUT, like just crazy boy of a computer monitor. It's a 27-inch. It's a UHD screen. It's going to be hopefully really nice. I'll be able to maybe show you a little bit of it, but it's supposed to have a wider color range than your typical monitor. So when you are editing video or photos or anything like that, you'll be able to see the full range of color represented. And if you go and print those images, you'll have accurately edited those images as well. It can help avoid things like oversaturation of points, like these colored lights behind me. If they get too strong, you can kind of see they get like a little bit white back there. Things like that can happen in your images and your videos as well. So like on Instagram, you're seeing an auto balance version. So my giant bald head is very, very shiny. So it's showing up super white there. But you know, if I move away, the color background can get a little oversaturated. So these high bit color range monitors and computer monitors and screens and stuff like that can really help out with your editing. So definitely match those up. Adobe RGB for Adobe RGB, but that's again if you're printing. Otherwise, stick with sRGB. I think that's the slightly wider color gamut. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, definitely check out those other monitors too. The ViewSonic is. I'm really excited to check it out. I hope it's going to be a permanent addition to the collection. I'm down a screen right now, so I just have the one screen right there, and I've got Instagram over here. I used to have another screen to the side where I could monitor things and make sure I, didn't have crap in my beard or whatever. All right, so let's move on here. We've got can you do a demonstration of setting custom white balance with the gray card? What is the benefit of custom versus auto? Because I see so many studios using custom. That's very true. I can do a demonstration of that. We're going to be doing that in some further episodes where we're going to be messing with some actual camera settings, and I'll be able to switch back and forth between a couple of cameras to show you like actual white balance settings and in-camera settings. This camera right now, I don't have it set up so that if I hit the menu button, you would be able to see those things. So I'm kind of trying to to keep that to another episode where I'll be able to get those things all set up beforehand, and we'll run through them. But there is a benefit to using custom white balance. If you know how to do it right, it can be very, very beneficial. If you know how your camera reacts to it, or you know how your camera looks in settings such as daylight balance, which is what I have this one set to right now because I'm using a daylight balanced light, then you can set using the auto settings, not the auto settings, but the built-in kind of the preset settings, the presets. That's what I'm looking for. Words. Sometimes I get away from you. Thanks, Nate, for following the stream. I appreciate it. Scottish Monkey, good to see you. And James Bass, I think you're right. Adobe RGB is a much bigger space than sRGB. We can double check that really quick. And you know what? I think you're right, James. I believe in you. Adobe RGB versus sRGB color space. Okay, let's see here. How much means? Okay, I'm looking at a graph here. Yes, you're right, James. Adobe RGB is much larger than sRGB, and that makes sense because if you're printing, you're going to be printing in a higher bit range. So sRGB, if I'm not mistaken, is like 8-bit color. So a lot of the stuff that we put out in digital and put on web is going to be 8-bit. Where Adobe RGB, maybe it's Rec 709 or something. There's so many different color spaces. We're going to do a deep dive in color spaces one of these days soon. I'm going to get them all sorted out and hopefully have some good information for you. And we'll discuss these too, like your experiences with which ones that you like and which ones feel most comfortable to you, or like which ones have given you the best results, like people have reacted best for you. But Adobe RGB is definitely the wider color gamut. sRGB is a little bit smaller, and then there's other ones like S-Log and on this camera we're actually using HLG, so that's hybrid log gamma if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, those all have different color spaces that they can use. But while this camera, the camera that the people on that stream are watching, you guys, that camera is in HLG, but it's being presented to you in Rec 709. So it's shrinking down that color space so it can be presented in a reasonable, bit rate. Okay, let's see. I think we have more to that question because we're talking about here we go. Let's see. That was the auto. Yeah. Okay. So that's the color space question from Mukesh Sharma. Thank you again for your question. Appreciate it. Thank you, James, for your input. I appreciate you calling me out on that reversal. Okay. We have, printers, cameras, and scanners using sRGB. Interesting. Most devices are using sRGB because it is easy to keep the space consistent in all devices. Okay. Yeah, that's like it's a standard RGB, if I'm not mistaken. So using that sRGB is going to be your best bet, unless you know that all your devices down your chain are Adobe RGB. Thank you, James, for your input on that. I really appreciate you chiming in. That's what this is for. Like, I'm not saying that I'm the end all be all knowledgeable person here. It's much better to have the input of many. And this is a place where I like to get a lot of professionals, talking about their experience. We've always had some great comments from like Matt Griller and the other people that are chiming in on these streams. It's great to have you all. Okay, let's we talked about white balance with the gray card. We're going to do an intensive on that when I can actually show the back screen of the camera. Let's move on to Arjun's question. Arjun Trivedi, I apologize in advance if I butcher anyone's names. I have a name that has an accent in it and has been butchered my entire life, so I know how you feel, but I apologize. I'm not going to be able to do any better right now. What is the best shutter speed to use if I'm taking photos of wildlife from inside the car? The lighting is outdoor light, but I want to avoid the motion blur. Okay, if you want to avoid motion blur, you're going to raise your shutter speed. The faster your shutter speed, the more still things become. It also means that it cuts down on the amount of light that you're allowing in. But when you're shooting outside, it's typically a lot brighter than any situation that you're going to be shooting in indoors, unless you have some massive, massive studio lights. Daylight is just a really, really powerful light. It's very, very soft, which is nice, but you get sharp shadows at the same time. It's kind of cool. So to compensate for that amount of light, you can raise your shutter speed. If you're still not getting enough light, then you can raise your ISO to compensate for that a little bit. But when I shoot outdoors, I typically have to lower my ISO as much as possible and even raise my aperture in order to compensate for that. Or if I want to have a really shallow depth of field and a wide open aperture for these nice blurry shots where the background's all blurry like this, I will bring an ND filter, and then that'll allow me to have that wide open aperture and still get a properly exposed shot. So if you're using a longer lens, for instance, that has a really wide open aperture, say it's like an f2.8 lens, keeping it at f2.8 is going to make it harder to nail that focus, but it's also going to make your like they call it a faster lens. So you're going to get you're going to be able to focus quicker, if I'm not mistaken. There's something along with that where you can hit that you can hit the image faster. But raising your shutter speed, keeping that that aperture wide open, and compensating with an ND filter is going to give you some really nice, like, shallow depth of field, but like hopefully tack sharp on that that subject. I know a lot of like sports photographers use that same sort of setup. Sports and wildlife photography is kind of similar in some ways, where you're using longer lenses and you're having to compensate with ND filters if you want to have a shallow depth of field. But it's high shutter speed to catch that motion and get it really, really frozen there. All right, I'm gonna take another sip here. We just had a comment on UXL, the YouTube page. It says, "Hello students, we apologize if you did not receive today's live Q&A notification. Unfortunately, there were some technical issues, and we hope this can be resolved ASAP." So this is always it's a building process. So me and UXL have been working on these streams, and because they're live, there's always some things that happen. So we apologize for any inconveniences, but we're always going to be here on Mondays around noon answering your questions. And we hope to have your questions in as many ways as possible. You can always find me on Twitter at FCMGstay or on Instagram at FCMG_stay for both of those. I'm also on Facebook under that same page. That's mostly my gaming stuff. I also do AMAs during those games. So if you ever see me live online, feel free to ask me questions about camera stuff. We'll discuss, if you've got a question about a computer or live streaming or X, Y, and Z, just feel free to shoot a message, jump in the chat, and we'll discuss. Okay, let's see if I actually answered that question or if I just rambled. Oh no, okay. taking wildlife photos from inside the car. Another thing that you might need if you're inside a car, if you're shooting through glass and you're getting like reflections on that glass, try a polarizer. Those circular polarizers you can spin, they cut reflections out of glass. So you can also get some nice depth in your color too because of that polarizer. Even just using it on like grass or like something like that, it cuts the reflection off of the blades of grass, off of water, off of the sides of mountains and all this stuff, and you can get much greater detail when you're working with a CPL. Just be careful about the quality of your filters, because those things can, if they get scratched or anything like that. Also, like inexpensive ones cannot be all too great sometimes. So if you're getting a filter, if you have a nice lens, it's worth getting a filter that's a little more bang for the buck. Okay, that was Arjun's question. Appreciate it. We're gonna move up to Angela Krugel's question. Is Behance a good resource to get photography jobs? I'm just starting out and I want to build a portfolio, but it is hard to get clients. In my experience, I haven't used Behance that much, besides as like a kind of like a portfolio site. So Behance is a good place to post your material, like post the whole project and kind of explain the whole thing that was going on, and then send that link to people. So it's a public page that you can have. And I think that's a great value. If you have an Adobe subscription, Adobe Creative Cloud, then if I'm not mistaken, you get a free Behance profile, which is also great value. So you can go online, you can post those things up there, and you can kind of use that as your resume. People can check out your portfolio, they can check out the things that you've done without you necessarily having to have your own website and build that out. It's a really good first step, getting your material out there. But I've also used Facebook pages like that. I've used Instagram pages like that. Really, it's what is going to connect with that audience. So if you're, say, looking for a more corporate end job, it might be best to put that stuff on LinkedIn and have it linked to your Behance profile. You can also post articles on LinkedIn and things like that. And LinkedIn is getting very popular lately, actually. So that can be a great resource for getting jobs. But then there's also places like Production Hub. Production Hub has been really good. They've gotten me a couple gigs, and I actually know personally a bunch of the people that work for them. They've always had great things to say about the company. So check out Production Hub, check out LinkedIn. Kind of check the resources that are local to the people that you're trying to get jobs with. That's one of those things that's in that freelance territory, and we're actually going to talk about that in a 10-episode series. This series that we're in right now, I think this is episode 3 or 4. We are in the How to Be a Better Photographer series, and we're starting off with the simple stuff, and we're moving our way up to like complex, like weird, crazy, edit things like photo compositing and whatnot. Those will be some fun episodes. Locations and all that stuff. So we'll be moving on eventually. The next series is going to be 10 episodes of videography, and then we're going to have 10 episodes of media production. So that's gonna cover more than just photo video. It's going to be like how to do your own logo and how to do this thing, and how to get into the basics of web design. Hopefully Ashley's going to maybe help us out with that. That'd be really cool. And then another series after that is going to be how to be a freelancer, and that's going to be the business end of things. So like how to land jobs, how to get what I call funnels, which is, a lot of people call them funnels, but like finding a client that is your, they collect clients for you. So for instance, I work at a place, it's a TV broadcast station, and every time I work there, I'm a freelancer. So I bring my business cards, I talk to the people that we're shooting, that we're producing, video for or about, and I get in touch with them afterwards. I say, hey, it was great, great doing a gig with you. If you ever have any needs for photography or videography, get in touch with me, and I'll be out there in a flash. And it leads to a percentage of increased business, right? So the more you exercise those in-person meetings and things like that, that's really, really going to help. Having word of mouth is going to be a big thing for you. But we also had a suggestion from Liz, says DeviantArt is Really good for jobs too. It's a really good place to get noticed. So check out DeviantArt as well. As an artist in high school, I was really into illustration. I remember that being a really good resource for meeting other people and getting inspiration and things like that. So it's cool to see how that's grown. I'd love to check that out sometime. Maybe get into that with the media production part of things. We'll do like a figure drawing course or something like that, and we'll put something up on DeviantArt. Anyway, cool. All right, so let's see if that answered that question. Alrighty, yeah. So we talked about some resources for getting jobs. Thank you for the question, Angela Krugel. Appreciate it. We're gonna move up. We got just a couple more left. I think it's 2 left here. This is from Sean G. Hi, how much of a deposit should I give a wedding photographer? How long should I expect to wait to receive my photos after my wedding? That's something that can be pretty different, per wedding photographer, per wedding, producer. So I work for a company called KJAD. They do wedding photography, videography. They do paper part of things. They do all kinds of stuff concerning weddings, even the planning aspects, and they're really great. They have a very different style from I did, when I was getting into that. So like, I'm willing to talk about my price range. My first wedding that I shot was for $600, and that was someone who needed something very soon. Like it was the end of the month, they were going to get married, and they haven't found anyone. They need a solution. So I went out and I shot the whole thing. This was my first wedding, so I got audio the best I could with audio devices. I shot with an FS5 camera, and I think I had a DSLR and a GoPro. So I'm using 3 very different kind of cameras there. It was tough to edit. It took me a long time, about a month actually. So that was my time frame, and I thought that was taking forever. But then there are other companies that it takes them 2-3 months to get that wedding video out. But in the meantime, they're getting you highlights. They're getting you little like Instagram snippets and things that you can share with your friends. There's different ways that different producers add value and give value back. So really check into your videographers and your wedding photographers and stuff like that. Ask them about these things. See what their turnaround time is. And I would budget your what you want, but also go shopping for a photographer. Go look around and see what the local people are like, what their material is like, and balance that against your budget. Maybe having a couple of students for a lower price can be your sort of middle ground, where you're definitely going to get photos of that spot, but some of them might have some rough shots in between. Or hey, who knows? Maybe that student could be phenomenal, and they could totally run the whole gambit and give you a great deal. I like to think that that's what I did, but we'll talk to them and see what they think at some point. I've always gotten good reviews on my wedding videos, but it's a whole different medium. Sometimes people are expecting just a documentary where they just want the footage and that's it. And other people are expecting a film. So, it really depends on the circumstance. But, some people might be willing to give you a deal, and you might be able to find some students who are willing to do it for cheap, but are actually like a diamond in the rough. They really know what they're doing, and they're getting some good stuff. So let's see. Ashley Reinhardt and James Bass are having a conversation on YouTube right now. It's really cool. Ashley she's a web designer and graphic designer, and she does some really cool stuff. So she's having a conversation about HTML, CSS, or something more in depth to Ruby or Python. Oh, they're talking about Python and Angular. I don't even know what that is. So we're gonna have them on to chat about web stuff soon, and I'm really excited for that. Okay, all right, let's see here. I'm gonna take one more sip of water. I'm gonna be taking a lot more sips of water, let's be honest. But beautiful. All right, let's answer Marco Giovanni's question here. He asks, what does the camera do when we switch the focus from manual single point selection to area mode? Okay, this I can answer for you. We're gonna go more in depth with this in a later episode when we can show the actual back of the screen, like the menus and stuff like that. I know that I can do it. I've done it before, so we're gonna make it happen. But basically, when you switch from manual single point to area mode area is going to search, obviously, an area. Sometimes you can select an area and it'll move throughout your screen kind of like this. You can select like the upper chunk or along the thirds. Those are going to search for things like faces. Well, in more modern cameras at least, they're going to search for faces. They're going to search for eyes. They're going to search for smiles and things like that it will recognize and be able to focus on. It'll also have some cameras have contrast detection, where it's going to look at, okay, this is the brightest thing in the scene, so maybe that's the focal point. It'll check the contrast of the entire scene in one of those area modes and find that point that you're looking for, hopefully landing you right on the spot. Other cameras, newer mirrorless cameras, have something called phase detection, which is, I think it's more akin to like a rangefinder, where it just finds the thing and it goes whoop, and it syncs up to it, as opposed to going and searching and making that final decision. So I'm seeing all these programming questions pop up. This is really cool. I'm so excited to do that episode. Yeah, the difference between those is going to be a little different. Contrast will kind of jump a little bit. Phase detection will be much more smooth. Like, I use phase detection autofocus in video. So I can shoot with like an A6400 and it'll stick to someone's eye when I'm shooting video of them, which is really, really nice. I really like that feature. And it was actually less expensive than the A6500, which is kind of cool. But the difference between an area and a single point manual selection is, single point manual selection, you're going to use the little directional pad on the back of your camera to move that point around and say, okay, I want to focus right on this person's eye. And then you click the button and it goes zing, zing, and it focuses right on what's on that spot. So you could put that, you could put that down like here and it would focus on my diploma in the background. You could set it to, like, what I like to do if you're taking someone's photo is focus on the near eye. That's going to be the kind of like classic photography thing to do, and it'll give you a more kind of pleasant effect. There's something weird about, like, when you focus on the far eye on someone, it just makes them feel a little bit out of focus and odd, especially if you're shooting with a really, really shallow depth of field. Look through these questions. Okay, these are all programming. That's all Ashley. I'm going to let her do her thing in the comments there. I wish the comments were popping up right here, but I got to fix that for next time. We've had actually a really good conversation so far. We got 11 people watching the stream. We got a couple people watching on Instagram. If you are on Instagram, definitely hop over to Facebook or YouTube and join us. UXL on Facebook or YouTube, you can find this live stream and actually comment in and join the comments. Also on Facebook, you can check out Full Coverage Media Group, which is my little company. But yeah, these streams are these. Hold on, I gotta get my little thing up. I gotta do the logo stuff because we're just getting into it. We just started our day. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So these streams are sponsored by UXL. We appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Facebook, yeah, UXL has been really great to us, and we appreciate them sending this stream out and sharing it to a whole bunch of people. We're basically speaking with a large group of professionals who all do the same sort of things, like media production, web design. We've got photographers on there. We've got artists, and we encourage you all to chat in. We don't have it on the screen right now, but it's we can see it over here. I can see it over here, and we can answer your questions as they come in. Cool. Okay. So the notifications are going out, and once again, thank you to UXL. UXL is a learning platform. Definitely go check it out if you want to do some online training. Right now is the best time to do it when you're quarantined inside and you don't have anything else better to do. Get some training in, get some learning, feel better about the world around you. But today we're going to be talking about how to be a better photographer. This is one part in an ongoing series where we talk about ways to improve your photography from the very basics to some more advanced stuff. And the subject for today is we're going to be talking about photography hacks and tricks. specifically locations, lighting, and lens tricks. I got a couple of things over here. Some things I'll be showing you that I'm excited to show you. They're weird things that you can do with lenses, and I'll actually hold them up to the lens and kind of show you examples of what they do. All right, the first topic is going to be locations, which has always been a hard thing for me. I've always wanted to kind of bend the rules and go places where I'm not supposed to go. So I managed to find a good middle ground lately. There's places around here where I live right now where you can go to a public park, but that public park has ruins and buildings that you can walk through that have just fantastic like rundown looks, and you know, things are all busted and whatnot. Just lots of drama in the scenery. There's an old foundry that's been it's like a steel foundry that's been knocked down. The furnace came down a long time ago. There's another trail that has just big giant buildings and an underground tunnel. There's actually an overpass that has a really cool looking bridge that goes underneath nearby, and these are all locations that are public places. So you can go out and you can do photography in a lot of these places. You might not be able to produce video on a large scale unless you get get in contact with your local film commission, talk to them about your local laws, and see what the rules are concerning public places. If you're looking for a specific location too, oftentimes you can talk to your local film commission and get details on, hey, there's this really cool abandoned building. How do I get in contact with the owner? Who do I talk to get permission to shoot in this place? And they can, you know, point you in the direction of a real estate agency. They could, you know, help get you in contact with those people and get the proper permission to be able to do these things and still retain your, you know, your production insurance. Like I get insurance through Full Frame, which is a company that does like gear insurance and whatnot. And they've been really good at covering my gear, giving me general liability insurance. So, you know, if I'm taking a photo and one of my lights falls down and smacks someone, which God forbid that ever happens, that's why I put sandbags on all my stuff. If that were to happen, I would be covered. You know, if they had tons of huge bills or something like that, like medical bills because of it, and they had to sue me in order to, you know, to maintain their, you know, their bills and stuff like that, that would suck. But at the same time, I have coverage. So that's what that insurance is really for. It's for, you know, if you injure someone else, if you injure yourself, that production insurance covers, you know, days of missed work that you can prove, and gigs that you've had to turn down because you broke your ankle, which, you know, otherwise would be a career ruiner. So it's really important to have that stuff and to find locations that you can get proper permission to use, so that you don't, you know, put yourself in a position where you won't be covered. You know, if you're trespassing on a property and you twist your ankle and you break your ankle, you know, and you get caught out there or something, like, you could be in a lot of trouble and your insurance might not cover it. Ashley's talking tools about development and programming. This is cool. I like having this dual conversation. We got multiple layers of engagement going right now. This is exciting. I love it. Okay, there was one question from, I think it was the last live stream, that I did want to address. I couldn't understand what the question really was at the time, but our friend Wanderer Fakir was asking about if like he was taking photos of landscapes, and he was saying the landscapes were coming out looking really flat in his images, and I was trying to kind of understand what was going on. We realized at one point, he sent me a bunch of photos. Basically, he was shooting with a wider angle lens, which is great for landscape photography. That's exactly what you should be doing. But because that wide lens was up like this, he was catching a whole lot of, like, the path in front of him would look flat like this, you know, and that's not the look that he was trying to get. So I suggested, lower your camera, bring it down to the ground, almost even to the ground if possible. You know, like, flip your camera around so that lens is on the very, very bottom, and see what kind of shot you get then. And I haven't really heard feedback whether that was the ticket, but I think that's what he was looking for. Changing the angle of view. If you're lower to the ground, it's going to look way more flat and kind of symmetrical like that. You can get a much more dramatic view because people are used to seeing, you know, at eye level, obviously. So if we're all used to seeing from the same height, change your angle, do something else, kind of mix it up, and give people a perspective that they haven't seen or they don't regularly see. And that can be a good way to stand out with your photography. So that was a good little conversation that Wanderer Fakir and I had. And I wanted to pass that on and just add that into the live stream for some, you know, future knowledge. Also, I had a really good question on my Facebook page. Full coverage media group on Facebook is where you can find it. And let's see, I had a question there. Gonna pull this up really quick. It was actually in regards to a bunch of my lights. We were talking about GVM lights, and GVM apparently has new 800D lights, which are RGB. They're about 160 beads and all this stuff. So there's some really cool lights. I'm interested to check them out for sure. I don't think they'll be as high color accuracy as the lights that I currently have, the 520S's. Let's see here. Let's go to my messages. There we go. Alrighty. Yeah, Giacomo Giorgiani asked me some questions about some lights. He said, "What is the difference between these two lights?" And I was talking about color rendering index. Color rendering index on your lights is going to be how accurately it displays skin tones, but that kind of measure is kind of falling out of favor right now because it's kind of arbitrary. Like it's very much like a panel of judges that look at these lights and they go, "Oh, that one's better than that one, so this one's a 95 and that one's a 97." So things can kind of get a little bit mixed up in the review process, but I still kind of stick by that measure. Anything around 97 is going to be really nice. 95 is going to be a little bit. You're gonna have to do some adjusting. Like I actually had my, you'll notice that the color in the background is a little bit different. I actually had a filter on my Streamlabs account that would change the color a little bit because the light that I was using was slightly green. So it changed the color in my background. Now it's set to 0 on the hue, so it's not changing my hue at all, and it looks much more balanced. And I'm like warm and sunny and all that stuff, but the camera is set to daylight balance. I'm using a daylight light, so the accuracy there is really high. Wanderer Fakir, glad I could cover that for you. I just got a response on that. We'll try next time I go out. Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing some feedback. That's gonna be cool. Cool. All right, so we're talking about the difference between these lights. He also brought up the company Andauer, which is I've seen some people use those lights and they've gotten some really good results. He was in Europe and he was saying that the new 800D lights from GVM weren't available yet, so he was checking out these other ones. And those would be cool. They didn't look like they were RGB though. These new lights from GVM are bicolor, so they do, you know, daylight and all the way into incandescent kind of levels. So like 3200K to 6500K, I think is their range. Actually, I could see it right here. 3200K to 5600K. And then they also have RGB light as well. So you can do, you know, some cool background stuff like this. Like have that, you know, nice blue bar in the back. It's a good way to add some color contrast. And that actually kind of ties into what we were talking about next. We had some lighting tricks that we wanted to talk about. Lighting tricks are a whole lot of fun. There's stuff like this that you can do where you add color into your background and make that create more contrast for you. So I'm very orange, just as a human being. My kind of color is a little bit more like pink orange, so there's some magenta in there, there's a little bit of orange, and you can make that stand out really well from blue. So blue is a really good color contrast from like an orange color or any kind of like warm tones like that. And really just like if you're shooting footage of like say if you're taking headshots, and you have just a blank background, something that you can do to really spice up your shots is add a splash of color. So if you're shooting with a white background, add a blue light onto there, like maybe one of these the well-making lights that I was talking about before. That's a good spotlight, so you can create like literally a blue halo around someone's head, and that will make them stand out really, really nicely. If someone is of like darker complexions, you can move into purples, and that becomes a little bit more complementary too. You can just adjust those colors a bit and see which works best for the skin tone that you're shooting for. Another thing with video is you can use that to really spice up your backgrounds, creating that color contrast and having people stand out off of the color behind them is just a brilliant way to make like a boring wall look really nice. This wall would otherwise be just pure white, and it's a nice spot. Yeah, it's got some cool leading lines on the ceiling. I got some stuff on the walls and whatnot, but it was just totally blank before. I'm actually going to be getting some diffusion, so we're going to have some sound panels and all kinds of stuff like that. We'll also have a gaming setup, so we're going to be able to play over there in the media room. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, for a good trick with lighting is to add color. Use color to your advantage. You can also do things like add light into your image. And I know that sounds like, okay, yeah, add light into your image, but no, think of it in the other direction where you're shining lights into your camera. I'm going to grab a light and a battery here real quick. I'm also going to take a sip of some water. And then I'm going to show you some cool projection tricks. That's another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to lighting. Okay, and there's this light. All right. So, you've seen these before. These are the Yongnuo YN216s, little daylight lights. They got some decent power to them. This is literally the lowest setting, and we're still going to get some cool stuff. So if we crank this up, we might be able to get some interesting sort of flares. Yeah, so here you can see we're getting a little green flare right up here. You can see it over my hand. The more directional you get with this light, like say if you totally backlight someone, you can get some pretty cool flares on them. But again, this isn't the most powerful light. It's also not the most directional light. So if you're to use like a flashlight or something that's got some, weird patterns in it or something like that, you shine that into your video, it's gonna look really, really cool. Stephanie, appreciate it. We're actually just talking about the colors in the background. It's all about creating color contrast and making your subject stand up off the background. So apparently it looks like we are going to have comments pop up in here. Stephanie, thank you for chatting in and thank you for watching. I always appreciate seeing you here. So if you're on Facebook, either Full Coverage Media Group or UXL, you'll be able to pop into the chats here. So yeah, if you wanna send a message to everyone, feel free to go there. Yeah, so shining these lights directly into your lens can give you some really cool artifacts and some different effects there, depending on your lens. Like those old Russian lenses that I was talking about before, those ones can have some really crazy artifacts. I love the way that they shine sometimes. Stephanie, thank you for liking the stream. Appreciate it. That's my awesome aunt from Canada. One of two. We got all right. So we got more stuff to talk about with lighting tricks. So we talked about shining things directly in the lens, getting some lens flares. We also talked about RGB and color contrast. You can use these RGB lights in different ways too. You know what? Let me grab one really quick, and I'll shine it on me really quick. I'll be back in 2 seconds. All right, I'm back. Here we go. Here we go. We got a comment on Instagram from Desmond. What's the brand of light? Is it available on Amazon India? I'm not sure if it's available on Amazon India, but definitely check it out. That's the YN360 from Yongnuo. If you search that YN360, you should be able to find them. It's high lumens. Yeah, okay. Those bars in the background, those are YN360s. That one in the center, that's a Viltrox. I think it's I forget the name of it, but it's the Viltrox RGB light that takes NPF batteries in the back. And then I'm actually going to show off this little thing from Waylight. Is it Waylight? Yeah, it's Waylight. This is the RB08P. This one's pretty cool because it's got an internal battery. But we're going to talk about some, so yeah, you can see it shining on me. And it's tiny. It's about the size of a cell phone. So this is going to give us some different sort of lens flares and whatnot, but we can also switch this over to an RGB mode. So let's go here. So all of a sudden you can add some like red lights to just add different contour to your subjects. You can hit them from, let's see, let's do the shadow side. You can use it to rim on the back, just get some rim light and some hair light on people. Using it as a backlight to illuminate hair is kind of cool. But you can also, you know, change the colors and see how that meshes with your background. So like right now we have purple and a little bit of magenta over here. Red does look pretty cool, kind of lights up that wall, nice. Looks a little bit more magenta on the screen, I'm noticing. And let's see here. If we go to, I gotta switch my modes on this thing. There are tons of different modes in this little light. It's really, really cool. All right, yeah. So we're gonna go to hue. We're gonna change our hue. All right, I'm gonna watch this light change. It's gonna go through orange, going into green. So you can use green and purple as a real nice contrast. So you see here, just having a little bit of bounce light from the green. Now this light goes much more powerful. It's change my mode again. All right, let's get back to the, yeah, there we go. Okay, it's only at 35% right now, but it's got full battery. So let's crank this thing up. I just got a thank you, Beard Brother, on Instagram. Anytime. Appreciate it. You're always welcome to come here, ask some questions. We're always down to chat media production, lights and cameras and all kinds of stuff like that. So you see how the green kind of stands out from the purple real well. Like it gives me a real nice standout from there. I actually get a little tiny bit of like, it looks like almost oversaturation in the edge of my hair. It looks a little bit crispy on the nice camera, but on Instagram you can see it as well. Definitely, yeah, definitely stands out. That's for sure. All right, so using that color contrast is one thing, but then you can do some weird stuff. Like here's a cool hack that I like to use. Let's see if I can turn it on. Hopefully it's still running. All right, it's going to take a second for this thing to warm up, but using projectors can be some really, really cool stuff. Andrew Daw, doing good. How you been? It's good to hear from you. I'm trying to get this visualization to work. Let's see if it freezes again. Been having some trouble with making it actually full screen, but we'll see what happens. Basically, you can use projectors like this to create some different textures in your backgrounds. You know, you can make it look like you're in a different place than where you are. It's really cool. Like Andrew, you can try and I mean, it's like a Highlander thing. If you can take me down, then the beard is yours. But we're talking lighting here, and so this is a cool trick. I'm actually going to turn off some lights in here, and I'm going to see if I can show you this. Let's go with this one. I think if we go like that, you'll see a little bit more in the background. I'm going to turn off these lights as well. Got all kinds of lighting in here. It's crazy. All right, so you can use these to light your subjects. You can get some interesting kind of drama on them. We turn these off. we'll get even more. So all right, I still have my backlight on. So I have this little light over here that's giving me some kind of bounce, but then I have this projector hitting me from this angle. Typically, the way that I have this set up is to work as an animation. It just doesn't want to work for me today. So that background would be moving. You can do really, really cool stuff with that. Having movement in your background and having it blown out, you can even set it out of focus on the actual projector itself. Let's turn this back on. Whew, that's much better. All right. There we go. All right. Having that that movement in your background can be a really, really cool effect. I can't quite get it to work, but yeah, this is just it's an Apeman 720p projector. Actually, Instagram is ending right now. There's a limit of an hour on these streams, so definitely come out to Facebook, either Full Coverage Media Group or UXL. You can also find us on YouTube, and you can comment into these streams, and we can chat. So stop by or come on to Twitch later, twitch.tv/FCMG_stay. Just got that in. That just ended in time. All right, cool. Share that to the story. We'll end the Instagram there. Let's see. Yeah. I love that idea with this work with the mini projectors. Yes, this definitely would work with mini projectors. This projector is pretty small too. It's something that you're gonna need to use like really, really low light settings. So this camera, yeah, Instagram has a 1 hour time limit. So the time limit was just running out. It gives me like 30 seconds to just like wrap up, and I'm like say what I need to say, and then they hopefully pop over here. But yeah, the just my live stream on Instagram ended. We're multi-streaming these things, so gotta pop over on Facebook. You know, Facebook is the place to go. Either Full Coverage Media Group or UXL, or on YouTube too. UXL is also streaming this there. It looks like we've got a ton of activity on UXL too, which is sweet. Misha 2020 was chatting in. I love that idea with this work with the mini projectors, and yeah, it definitely would. Actually, also commented, am I gonna talk about my crystals? Heck yeah, I'm gonna talk about some crystals. That's coming up in a second. That's actually our next subject that I want to talk about. I'm gonna turn off the projector for now. Didn't quite work the way I wanted it to, but hey, you know, sometimes you just gotta do what you can. Yeah, all right. So we're just gonna kill this thing. Cool. Boom. And it's got a nice little remote too, so that's super handy. Control your stuff. Andrew, appreciate it, man. It's always good to have you here. Okay, so let's see. Can you post the projector you mentioned? Absolutely will do. I'm gonna post the link. Actually, Ashley might be able to do it. The link to our gear list, which is an Amazon link. It's all affiliate links, and I would really appreciate it that if you decide to buy any of those things, to go through those links. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does help support the stream. So Ashley's gonna post that in a minute. If you can post that to Restream, Ashley, I would greatly appreciate it, because then it would go everywhere. So yeah, Misha, we're gonna get you that link. I'll make sure that the Apeman is on there. I might need to add it, but if it's not, I'll add it, and it'll be at the top of the list by the end of the day. So yeah, our next thing that we're gonna talk about is lens hacks, which I think is my favorite part of this entire chat. So hopefully the people from Instagram popped over, because this is where it gets spicy. All right, so first thing that I have listed on here is well, the bullet point says this. I'll just read it out for you. Crystals, mirrors, CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, fishing line, UV filter, and Vaseline. That sounds like something that would be in the back of someone's car that just got pulled over and searched, you know. But yeah, the crystals. Let's start with this thing. So I got these off of Amazon. They're real inexpensive. I think they were about $20. The company is Amlong Crystal. I already busted the box, but it's it's a cool little box. I'm gonna pop this out of here. Put these over here, and then I'll show you these things. So this collection has 4 crystals inside of it. So you get a sphere, which is pretty cool. Does some reversal stuff. You get a rectangular prism, which is like a bar. That's also a triangle. You can kind of see. I'll hold that up a little bit better. Then a prism, an actual prism, and a cube. And all these do different things. They're all like photography rated, so they're meant to be they're meant to be you know, optical quality glass and all that stuff, but that also means that they're kind of sharp on some of the edges, so you got to be a little bit careful, and they pick up your fingerprints, so definitely be careful of that. But you can do really cool stuff with these. Like here's the rectangular prism. It's just this little prism right like that, right? Rectangular in shape, triangle on the end, and then you do things like this, like you hold it up to the edge of your oh, you can see the rest of my my studio there. That's cool. Oh, yeah, you see my light over there. You hold these up under or along the side of your lenses, and you can just get some really cool reflections. Like this is a really wide lens that I'm shooting on right now. This is a 16 millimeter. So it's going to kind of pick up more of my hand and my fingers than I want to. Typically when I'm shooting, I'd have either like a 30 millimeter, I think that's what this is. Sigma, oh, it's under there. Yeah, 30 millimeter. Okay, so I'd be shooting like this, and then I'd be popping the lens just up in front of the camera like that. And that just creates some little kind of clear like lens aberrations. I can have some examples to show you soon. I gotta double check and make sure that I can share these. But I did a photo set recently that was it was a baby maternity shoot, and we used these with a scene in their living room where they were sitting in front of a fire, and it was supposed to look really nice and warm. And I was using this to hide an orange light that was helping cast a nice warm glow in the room. It's actually one of those little well-making you know, COB lights that I was talking about. And then this would hide the light, so you couldn't actually see that that's where that was coming from. It would just sort of pop up from the edge and then help splay that light all over the place. Like I was just doing it sort of like that. It was a very subtle effect, but it looked really cool, and I really love those photos. Love to be able to share them with you. So let's see. This has a very different effect. So I'm gonna have to probably refocus the lens. But we go like this. Oh, no. No. Okay, hold on. We're going to get there. Here we go. Here we go. You refocus the lens, you can see what this does. It flips my image upside down like that, right? It's really hard to hold still. See if I can focus even closer. There we go. That's about as close as I can get. Try and get my face in focus here. So you can see what this is doing. It's gonna reverse your image. It's gonna flip it upside down, and it's gonna make your focus point really tight. But you can do some really cool portraits with this. Like I did a portrait of a sideshow instructor. This guy is he's a famous sideshow professional who's been doing it for 25 plus years. Really awesome guy who's honestly like a big inspiration for me. Get my focus here. There we go. Okay. Really awesome guy who's been a huge inspiration for me. We got this photo of him doing this with that thing and this big face, and it just looks so like contorted and wild. It's like a hyper fisheye. Yeah, this technique is for it's just messing with your like ways to differentiate your photos and make things look different. So we're talking about putting objects in front of your lenses, basically lens modifiers. You know, your more typical lens modifiers would be like a CPL filter or something like that. Yeah, exactly. James Bass, special effects. We got some other ones in here. This is the actual prism itself. you can get some just wild stuff with these. I'm gonna polish this a little bit. My fingerprints all over it. My grubby little fingers. All right, here we go. So you do things like that, get some kaleidoscopes going, and you can also just have it off into like a corner. If you're using like really shallow depth of field, then it accentuates this effect a whole lot more. Right now I'm shooting at f2. I could be down at f1.4. So if you're shooting with a lens that's like one of those Canon 1.2s or like one of those the SLR Magic makes a 0.9 f0.9 lens, which is supposed to be super wide open aperture, very shallow depth of field. You can blur these out really well. And you can get some cool effects that way. That was an interesting voice thing that I just did. All right, so and then the last one here we have is the cube, and I like the cube because you can do some sort of geometric things, and you can also see through it. So you can take these cool portraits of people, especially with a tighter lens like a 50, like the 30 Sigma or the 56. You can use this as like a window to catch your subject or like catch the person's eye, little things like that. It's hard to do on a wider lens, but definitely works really well on tighter lenses. So something with a little bit more telephoto or a little bit closer to a normal portrait lens, like a 50 millimeter. Love to see some samples of those types of shots. I actually didn't clear with anyone that I could share these here before, so I'm gonna wait to show you those. But we can do the. I've been talking about doing an episode where we're gonna see through the lens of a camera and see the menu and all this stuff as we do lighting and whatnot. And I'm actually gonna set up the studio a little bit for that. We're gonna do a more intense lesson on that. And it's going to be more of like an experiment too. So you can ask questions about, hey, like what if we did this with the light? What would that look like? And we can just kind of, check the different quality of different types of lights. I'm going to use a panel, and then I'm going to use a cob light, which is a chip on board, a single chip, which can give you really sharp shadows. And then we'll also use some other stuff. Like I have some incandescent bulbs. You can kind of see the difference there. So we're going to do a lighting intensive, and you know what? We'll add in some RGB. We'll add in some of these lens tricks, and we'll be able to see through the lens of the camera to see those. I'll have it set up where I'll be behind the camera, and I'll have someone as the subject. Otherwise, right now it's mostly me trying to go like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Yeah, that's not bad. So we're gonna get some people in here. Right now, it's obviously COVID. Ashley will be able to help me out at some point, but we'd have to schedule that because she works full time too. She got that web design, graphic design career. She's punching it out every day. The effects are awesome, cool to play with them. Yeah, lots of fun to play with. But that's just the crystals. We got a bunch more stuff to talk about. We got the CDs, DVDs, and mirrors and all that stuff. So let's get started with the reflective surfaces. Where did I put them? I had a couple of reflective surfaces over here. Where'd you go? Yeah. All right. Here we go. Okay. So this thing, Amazon. This was like $2. This is a plastic mirror. Kind of crappy, but it's also kind of great because you can do things like it's not the best example, but again, you can place this and you can get weird like splits in your image. You can get some cool reflections sometimes depending on the lighting that you're using. Like if let's get this guy. If I had a light positioned like this in my scene, where it's shooting towards the lens a little bit, I can reflect some. This is not showing what I. Yeah, okay. It's got to be a way tighter lens. So I'm gonna do a run through with these special effects on a tighter lens. If I switch it out right now, it's probably gonna just be horrifying. It's gonna blow out for a minute, and then we'll have to switch things back. But basically, you'd be shooting with this through the lens, and you're kind of balancing it underneath, and popping it up. So on these tighter lenses, your subject's going to be a little bit more far away, and you'll have more distance and more of a what is that? A foreground blur. So the bokeh on your foreground is going to help hide that this is an actual mirror and just sort of make it disappear there. So here's some other things. Maybe I can give you a better example with these. These CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays, they all have different coatings on them. So you can see there's this CD that I've had forever that's just scratched all to bejesus. That gives us a nice rainbow. It's sort of like a chrome rainbow look. And then this one is going to be, I think, a Blu-ray, which is very interesting, like purples and stuff like that. And then the DVD is a little bit more just straight blue reflection. If you see that line, like the blue-green line, it looks very anamorphic. And then you get almost a little bit of red in there when you kind of turn it on its side. But using those, you'd be holding it up to the side of the lens and just using it to sort of reflect a bit of the scene or something like that. Like you can add these into the corners, you can angle it on the sides, and then with CDs you'll get that rainbow mirror effect. Again, using a much shallower depth of field will give you much more pronounced results. And with tighter lenses, you can actually shoot through some of these. So you can put this right up to a lens and get some cool effects with it. It depends how your lights are shining. And as I throw that at the, this is a, oh no, I got these backwards. Okay, so this one is the DVD, yeah, DVD-R, and this one's the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is much smoother. But yeah, cool effects. You just get like some light reflection, reflect the person's face into another corner. I have a photo up on Twitch. Actually, my profile photo up on Twitch is one of those images that has, I was using a mirror. Someone took the photo of me, actually, but it was all set up like that. And I think that's a pretty cool effect. Like this guy, our regular CD with this very, very rainbow reflections. Beautiful. So yeah, reflective surfaces. Oh yeah, no, this only had my the only copy of my social security number on here, so it's it's fine, it's good. Kidding. Yeah, reflective surfaces of all kinds can be great. You can even use your cell phones like that, get a little bit of that effect, or any sort of like wide surfaces or long surfaces like mirrors, and if you got a big reflective TV screen, that works well. These effects are so creative, perspective-wise, so different from traditional shooting, and that's what's really going to make you stand out as a photographer. I don't think of these sessions as like, here's your playbook for how to be better. It's just how to be different, really. And I think that's a big part when it comes to standing out as a photographer, is being willing to try different things, being willing to get down on the ground and take a photo of a reflection of a puddle in the street or something like that. Like using that reflection in there, angles that people don't typically see from. So, putting your camera on a monopod and sticking it way above the crowd, like things like that. That just things that people don't typically think of, or perspectives that they typically don't see from, can be a very easy way to make your photography stand out. And obviously using different lenses, using odd combinations of lenses that people don't use typically. That's a great way to do it. When we do that behind the camera type thing, I'm going to test this out beforehand to make sure that it works first of all, because the lenses that I'm using, the Sony lenses, the Sigma lenses on Sony bodies, they're electronically controlled. So that means that the aperture and the focus are not manual ever. Like, well, you can set them to be manual on the camera, but it's like when you spin the ring, it's fly-by-wire, I think it's called. So it controls the ring on the inside. It doesn't actually manually latch on and go, and you're changing the aperture. The aperture is like electronically controlled by the camera itself, even on manual mode. It's just not automatically adjusted. So I'm probably going to have to use some Russian lenses to make this work, but there's a technique called lens whacking, which I think is Super, super cool. I've never really, well, I've used it a couple times on shoots before. Might be able to pull that. No, that's on an old page. I'll find some examples for next time. But the technique of lens whacking is literally taking the front lens, like the lens, off of your camera, and you're taking photos while moving the lens independent of the body. So you can create weird compression changes. You can create artifacts and all kinds of flares. If you're getting light leaks in through the side of the camera into the sensor, then you'll get some serious strange effects. At the same time, though, it's something that you want to be really careful doing. Lens whacking is no joke because you're exposing your sensor and allowing it out to the elements. And if it's like windy at all, if there's any dust or particles or smoke in the air, just avoid it. Like if it's rainy outside, just avoid it. Don't do that. It's great for studio stuff. It's a great way to make your studio stuff look really weird. The camera works with the lens disconnected. There are some cameras like the A6500 and the A6400. There's a setting that you can set it to where it says release shutter without lens. And as long as you have that setting ticked, then you're going to be able to hit that shutter button. Let's see if I can get this one to do it. I don't have a battery in here right now. I do have a battery in here, but it's dead. Use my cameras too much lately. Damn. No such thing. So basically you would pull that off and you'd be snapping photos. The problem with these lenses though is they're electronic. So the aperture is opened by an electronic button, by electronic control of the camera, even if you're in manual mode. So I would have to get one of my manual Russian lenses, or like there are Sony lenses that are manual, but you want to open that aperture up real wide inside of that lens. You want to use that camera and kind of shift them back and forth until you find some sweet spots. And you can get some really, really cool effects that way. Again, definitely use that only in the studio where you can control the weather conditions and not get crap inside of your sensor. That is not great. But yes, the camera will work if a lens is disconnected. On most cameras. There are some that can't do that. The last time I used this technique, I think I was using a DSLR, so it was a little bit different. I was shooting with a Nikon probably D5300 and like a 50mm lens that I could actually pull the bayonet and open up the aperture inside of the lens. Made for some really interesting shots. If you go to Facebook and you check out Stay Heavy Studios, you might be able to find some of those shots. I used to do like counterculture photography. So that would be bands and live music. That would be models and musicians and artists and all this stuff. Like just interesting people that I got to know and got to take photos of. And it was always a great time doing those kinds of things. But I moved down to the States and I kind of changed my brand. So if you want to go check out that page, it is public. And I think you can look through the photo albums there and find some pretty cool stuff. There's a live technique. If you go to that page, I would love to hear some responses on. Thank you, Ashley, for posting the website. That's the website. You can find the Facebook page through there. But it's I would love to get some guesses on how I got the live photos on there that have light streaks passing through them and passing behind instruments and all this stuff. There's a lot of live photos that I have on there, a lot of live music stuff, and you can definitely check it out. Leave some comments. Tell me what you think that is, because I'm really curious to see what your opinions are. See what techniques I might have used for that. Misha 2020 Bella asks, after you moved, did you have to reestablish your photography business? I did. I was actually born in the United States. I have dual citizenship, so I went to college in Canada. I started my business while I was in Canada and was trying to gain clients and all this stuff up there. It was working pretty well, but I kind of realized at some point, it was like, hold on, there's 1/10 the population in Canada than there is in the United States. There's going to be much more clientele for me. I actually have a wider base of people that I know down here. So I ended up moving back to the United States, staying with family for a little bit, and we just got a new place now. So in the past, probably 3 years, I've basically reestablished my business. but it was the best move that I could have made, because really it is, it's been, you know, exponentially greater growth than I've ever had while I was living and working in Canada. I wasn't doing video back then either, though. I was just doing photography. I would add videos as sort of like a, you know, a bonus sort of thing, but now that's become my focus. And I have a steady gig working for a TV broadcast company. They're my filter, as I will tell you guys about in a later episode, when we talk about freelancing and how to get gigs and how to get gigs that get you gigs. Little squared, you know, stuff there. So we'll talk about that a little bit in a later episode. But yes, I definitely did have to restart my business, and I'm happy that I did. You know, I'm able to chat with all you right now and do kind of video stuff, and you know, check out really weird pieces of gear like that light that does a million different things, like this little guy. I think this is one of my favorite lights that's come out recently. It's the Waylight RB08P, and I kind of talked about it. It's on hue, saturation, and luminance mode right now. So like, watch, I can set this down. I can change the luminance of the green, so the value's going down slowly, so it's just a gentle touch of green. Ooh, very gentle. And if I want to bring it back up, like being able to adjust the luminance of a color is really sweet, because when you're doing video and you're doing photos and stuff, your colors can sometimes, like, they look really nice, and then you take the photo and you're like, wow, that color is like crunchy. Like, why does it look so gross? And that can be from the compression of your photos. So being able to adjust luminance is really powerful. Glad I can do that. But it also has an RGB mode, so you can adjust just RGB. You know, turn this up, it's going to give me, what color am I set to? Red. Yeah, so it's going to start giving me red. It has a little bit of the other colors in there too, so you can see it's a little bit more pink right now. But then there's other things. There's like oscillating color modes where you go, it's just cycling through the entire spectrum. This one has a little bit harder stops than this this center light behind me. But yeah, there's always some weird stuff that you can find. And I'm always happy to test out these cool camera pieces. Oh yeah, lightning mode. Isn't that cool? Here's one. Hopefully that's never the case. Little cop lights, you know. Hey. All right, I'm gonna turn this off. I've got a couple more questions. Photography crystal set, is that on the gear list? I don't think it's on the gear list, but I'm gonna get that up tonight. There's a whole bunch of ones that you can choose from. There's a nice expensive one that actually comes with a little like arm and clamp, but that's way more money than I would spend. The one that I got was, I think, $12. Search for photography crystal if you're just looking for it, but I will have a link up tonight, I promise you. Probably in the next couple hours. I really do appreciate the Andrew Daw missed a big chunk of the live stream. His phone died. I appreciate it, man. Well, it's all going to be recorded. It's all up on Facebook, on Full Coverage Media Group, and on UXL. Also on UXL's YouTube. Be sure to check them out. Definitely go sign up for some courses if you want to. They have great deals going on right now where it's like $30 for like a $300 course. These are college level courses that you can actually get certifications from. So it's worth checking out. I've got like 3 certifications through UXL, and I've been renewing them on a yearly basis. They've been like literally getting me work. I think I spent, you know, $60 on like a pack way back in the day when they were on sale. So wait for those sales. Definitely check out uxl.com. All right. Is there more money in video editing than photography? I think the people that I knew, there was more business to be had in videography for me. So I had more opportunity to do videography. I could do it for weddings. I could do it for real estate. I could do it for TV. And now I'm doing like live streams and stuff like that as well. So video was a little bit more valuable to me personally. Meanwhile, there might be someone who's more linked in with the live music community. There's someone who's more in touch with the fashion and modeling community around them that actually will get paid for gigs like that. So when it comes to a lot of the photography realms, I was just starting out. I didn't have a lot to show when it came to like production side things like that, and like setting up a a big photo shoot and being able to work through the photos that quickly and produce the exact right medium that they wanted. I was much better at cranking out a music video or cranking out a short YouTube clip or a short ad for a company. For some reason, video just kind of grabs me a little bit more, and that's why it was more lucrative for me. I still do photography for a lot of people. I ended up doing maternity shoots for a couple of my friends recently. There's always photos to be had when people want to do. They're getting engaged. They've got a house to sell. They have a nice car. There's all kinds of ways to do it. But my problem is I'm like too passionate about photography. I love taking photos and I love getting nerdy with it, and I lose myself in it. So I don't keep track of my time, and I ended up taking too long editing the photos because I make it really extravagant. So I don't really have the best value when it comes to clients with photography. My value is much better used in videography, where I can produce a video. I can think through it. It's much more like, all right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna get it out on time. But it's not gonna be like my baby. It's not gonna be my passion project that I hold on to forever and never let go of. You have to be able to say at some point, like, all right, this is how it is, and send it out. Be willing to take criticism on it, and be willing to take like, hey, I need X, Y, and Z done to my video if you're working for clients. So that medium was definitely more like, I felt more okay with that when people would come back and be like, hey, so can you smooth out all my hair in my photo? And it's like, I don't want to do that. I think that looks bad. And it's like, it's not about that. But I found it harder to let go of my passion when it came to photography than not necessarily let go of my passion, but like acquiesce to different opinions, and take creative criticism when it came to videography. That was definitely my way to go. I've done a couple music videos. Recently we just did one that was Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, which we self-produced with King Studios and Visionary. Check them out on YouTube and all that stuff. But that about does it for today. That hits all the points that I was trying to talk about. Some interesting little photography hacks. This is like the next level up from what we talked about last time. And next time is going to be a little bit more complicated too. But if you ever have any more questions for me, feel free to come over to Twitch. I'm going to be Lisa Romano. Thank you for joining in. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you're liking the info. Join me on Twitch. I'm going to be doing some video game streams. I just got affiliate on there, so I can't actually multi-stream to Twitch right now. I have to do just Twitch streams if I want to stream to there and not get in trouble and retain my my affiliate status. If you come over to Twitch evenings on weekdays or on Sunday, you'll go to FCMG_stay. You'll be able to find me there, and you can ask me anything about photo, video, media, and we'll have a discussion as well. There's usually a lot of people on there that are like media producers like myself, like my buddy Eggboy TV. He's on there. He's Ryan Stacy is a photographer from Canada, from around Toronto. I think he's living right now. Ashley just posted the my work with I Am King. I appreciate that. My work with I Am King it's been a lot of fun. There's just some friends that I grew up with, and we've been doing passion projects for a while and making things work and investing in each other's business back and forth, being like, hey, I need this mixed, and hey, I need that video. It's really cool to work with them. Ashley just posted that video. Definitely check that out in the link. And then yeah, come by our Twitch profile right here. That's FCMG_stay, where you can ask me anything about photo, video, media, production, and we'll chat while I'm sitting there playing some games. Or you can just hang out and play some video games with me. There's a lot of times where we open up the game, like we play a game that you can do multiplayer, so you can join in, you can join our Discord, and we can chat directly. So as always, thank you again for watching. I really appreciate you stopping by for the Producer's Log. Thank you UXL for sponsoring these live streams and getting these out to people. And yeah, feel free to send me a message, FCMG_stay. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. You can also find Full Coverage Media Group on Facebook and ask us anything. And yeah, until next time, I'm going to switch out to the end of the stream, and join us over on Twitch if you wanna hang out later today. We're gonna be playing some video games. We just did a big move, so we're actually gonna be playing a video game called Moving Out, and it's gonna be so much fun. But yeah, feel free to ask anything about photo video stuff there. See y'all later. Thank you, Sir James Bass. I appreciate your help with this stream. It's always great having people in the chats that have some information to offer. Peace. Have a great day, and stay safe and stay sane out there.